Mr. Speaker, I rise today in appreciation of the people of Guam for their trust, support, and respect for allowing me to represent Guam and their interests here in the Congress of the United States for 8 terms. I also rise this final time in appreciation to my colleagues in this wonderful institution, the U.S. House of Representatives, for their support over the years as we have worked on many impactful issues for the betterment of our constituents and our nation. It has been my honor to serve in Congress for the last 16 years, and I leave here proud of what we have accomplished, not just for Guam, but for our nation and our allies in the Asia-Pacific region. As the non-voting delegate for the 168,000 Americans who live on the westernmost territory of the United States of America, I worked with my congressional colleagues to support policies, programs, and legislation that have benefited the people of Guam. I have also secured billions of dollars in federal investment in Guam and our people. And with the support of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, we saw the passage of landmark legislation for Guam, including passing war reparations to recognize the survivors of the occupation of Guam during World War II, enshrining the independence of Guam's judiciary as a co-equal branch of government, enhancing regional security with the relocation of Marines to Guam, holding the military accountable to its responsibilities to Guam's civilian population, promoting Guam's Chamorro culture, protecting our environment, and improving health care for veterans and for all Guam residents. In just this last year, I have worked with entrepreneurs to jumpstart the process for Guam to eventually become a commercial spaceport. I have also engaged leaders in the renewable energy industry and sponsored legislation passed unanimously by the House to develop offshore wind energy that will benefit Guam's electricity needs for decades to come. We have strengthened relations with our neighbors in the Asia-Pacific and enhanced tourism, which is Guam's largest non-military industry and employer. And finally, through engagement and cooperation with our regional allies, we have enhanced the security of the Indo-Asia-Pacific region and our national interests, countering growing threats and safeguarding against rogue countries. These are just some of our successes. My colleagues would often tease me by saying, "Here she comes, Miss Guam. What does she want now?" While this was often said jokingly, and I have always accepted this as good-natured humor, I hope that it speaks to the dedication that I brought to effectively representing my constituents as the first woman to serve as Guam's elected delegate to the United States Congress. Mr. Speaker, Guam residents have no other voice or voting representation in their federal government to champion their interests and their causes, despite the successes we have had during my tenure. I cannot leave without commenting on the disparity between the representatives from the 50 states and the delegates who represent 4 million fellow Americans residing in the U.S. territories. It is unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, that our country continues to disenfranchise Americans in the territories merely because of where we live. My constituents lack full voting representation in the House. We have no representation in the Senate and are denied the right to vote for the President of the United States. And yet, we serve and sacrifice at the highest rates in our military. When I was first elected to Congress in 2002, one of my predecessors, the late Congressman Ben Blas, commented to me that as Guam's delegate, I would be a member of Congress, but not one of its true members. So I hope that we will continue to see our nation strive for that goal, and that includes giving full representation and voting rights to our fellow Americans living in the territories and the District of Columbia. Mr. Speaker, while I'm saddened for my congressional tenure to come to a close, I leave proud of my work to advance Guam's interests and thankful for the support and the friendship of the colleagues with whom I have served for these past 16 years. I'm also internally grateful to the nearly 200 staffers and interns who have aided me throughout the years in the congressional office. I'm especially appreciative for the staff who were with me during this last year in Congress. In my D.C. office, Adam Carbolito, Roseanne Montanoia, Howard Pangilinan, Edgar Yanger, Brandon Wesley, Ian Hart, and Catherine Lee. And in my district, Guam District Office, John Jr. Calvo, Kalea Custodio, Amanda Shelton, Robert St. Augustine, Audrey Lizama, and Dado Rizon. I would not have been successful without their dedication and tireless support, and I ask that the full list of all my congressional staff be included in the record. And I ask that my full remarks be included for this record. And with that, I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and for the final time, I yield back.